Hey everybody, welcome to the Chasing Freedom podcast with Noah and Jeff.
In this show, we're going to dive deep into flips, wholesales, holding rentals, and creatively structuring deals,
so that we can show you how you can achieve that lifestyle of freedom that you desire.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Chasing Freedom podcast with Noah and Jeff. Today, we have our friend Cam Cathcart. We met him at the Maui Mastermind just a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago. I'm not sure the time frame. We are super excited to dive into his business. His business is Revel City Properties, and he's scaled out an amazing flip business with his wife, which is also really cool that they were able to do this as a husband and wife. So today we're going to dive into how he got started, why, we're going to go through a specific deal, and then he's going to talk about how he was able to scale his business to running multiple flips a year and at the same time burning a ton of these properties and building legacy wealth for his family.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us today, man. We appreciate you coming on, dude.
Thank you guys so much for letting me come on. I'm excited.
Yeah, we're stoked. We when you said Lexi wasn't come on, we almost canceled, but you made the cut, dude.
Yeah, we'll select.
She's the one who runs the business, honestly.
Yeah, so Cam's actually her assistant.
I love, real quick before we dive in, I just want to give you kudos on that because not often do you see like a husband and wife combo where the husband will just be like, yeah, my wife's a baller. She runs a ton of this stuff. Men naturally mansplain and want to take credit for everything. And every time I talk to Cam, I'm like, what are you guys up to? He's like, well, Lexi's out there hustling. She's leasing houses, flipping houses. And you just you own it. And obviously you play a vital part to your business. And we'll dive into what you do and what Lexi does and how you guys make that work. But I just want to applaud you for putting your wife at the forefront and being no, she's a baller, dude. I wouldn't be doing this without her. So kudos on that, man.
Dude, thanks. Dude, she is, and we'll talk about it more, but we've got a 5-month-old now, and she's bringing him to rehabs with her. I mean, it's insane what she does.
I saw this. I've been watching. I love you guys' Instagram stories. One, I need to make a trip out to St. Louis because you guys have some cool houses out there. Every flip that you guys put up, I'm like, dude, that's freaking sick. You got that garden house you just did. You got all these cool brick structures. I'm like, my houses look so lame compared to this. I'm doing suburban flips. I want to see some cool St. Louis stuff.
Most of our rental properties are those suburban flips.
Yeah.
But then the flips are most of our BRRRRs are those suburban houses, and our flips are the flip side is to keep it fun. And so we want to do older houses. So we just did one that was built in 1882. Yeah. Brick structure, why can't I think of it? I'm blanking on the name.
Lexi probably knows.
The mortar or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It was made with horsehair because that's how they made it back then. So you could pull it out of the brick and there'd just be horsehair in it.
Can you imagine if you were allergic to horses?
I know, you'd be in trouble. So
I love it. Well, cool, Cam, man. Let's jump into what you were doing before real estate. Why'd you make the jump? What motivates you? What's your why? And kind of inspire our listeners to make that jump too, man.
Dude, love it. So long story, but I'll share it. So how we got into real estate. I was a pastor actually out in Colorado at a church out there, and I was making $40,000 a year, which is not very much money anywhere, but especially in Colorado. So we loved the church, loved all my friends out there. It was incredible. But we were at the end of every month realizing, hey, we don't have any money whatsoever. Yeah. And we had a kid, Riley. She's now 3 years old. So this was about 3 years ago. We had her, and at 9 months old, we gave her peanut butter for the first time. And fortunately, I wasn't there for this entire thing. I was in a meeting. Yeah. But I got out of the meeting, looked down at my phone. I had 50 missed calls, 100 missed text messages. We gave her peanut butter. Riley had went into anaphylactic shock. Lexi rushed her to an emergency room. They gave her EpiPens, IVs, all this stuff. Fortunately, I was in a meeting for an hour and a half. And by the time I got out of the meeting, she was stable. Everything was good. I didn't have to go through that entire scenario. Yeah. But so she was fine. They kept her overnight. And she's not allowed to have peanut butter anymore. Can't eat, Reese's at our house anymore, which sucks. But about a month later, we were sitting in our house one night, And we got a bill from the emergency room. And it turns out that the emergency room that Lexi rushed Riley to, because she wasn't thinking about calling around and finding what emergency rooms
doesn't matter at that moment.
Out of network. She's like, I'm just getting her to the closest one.
Yep.
Was out of network with our insurance. So, because she took her because it was the closest one to our house. It was actually like a 24-hour urgent care. It wasn't like in a hospital.
Yeah.
That was just the first place she knew it. She literally threw the car. Anyway, so we had a $15,000 bill, hospital bill. Yeah, which was crazy. And we had maybe $300 in our bank account at the time. So, so that was honestly, that was the defining moment in our lives where we were sitting there and we were like, this is just not the way that we want to, spend the rest of our lives. Of like trying to make ends meet. We were $15,000 in debt. And the cool story about that, which has nothing to do with real estate, but I am obviously as a pastor, man of faith, that like 3 days later, after we got that $15,000 bill, Lexi at the time was a barber, and there's a guy that was downsizing from a 5,000 square foot to a 2,000 square foot house. And he had a storage unit where he was like, I'm just going to donate this. But he told Lexi, you can take it all and sell it. And it was full of like flat screen TVs, washers, dryers, refrigerators. We sold everything in that and it added up to $15,000, which is crazy.
That's crazy.
But so super cool story.
I love it, man.
But all that to say, we were like, we don't want to live this life of making, trying to make ends meet every month. We wanted to have more kids. We have 3 kids now. So we have a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a newborn. But at the time we were like, we can't do this. And so we ended up packing up, moving back to St. Louis with the sole purpose of getting into real estate. We didn't know anything about real estate. At the time, I didn't know what the Burr Method was. I didn't know how to analyze deals. I just had watched HGTV a couple times and was like, this seems like something fun to do.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So we grew up in St. Louis, and we knew the houses were cheaper in St. Louis. Yeah. So that's really the extent of our real estate knowledge. So we moved back in 2019, in the summer of 2019, so 2 years ago. To get started into real estate, and didn't know what we were doing, but just kind of started figuring it out. So that was kind of our why, is like, hey, we wanted to create financial freedom for me, my wife, but not just us two. We wanted to create a legacy to leave behind to our kids, to our friends, to our family, to different organizations. So that was kind of why we decided to dive into it, is to be able to do that.
I love it, man. I hear this kind of story often, whether like some crazy life event happened or just the foresight of knowing like what we were doing before would never cover the expenses that we can't foresee in our life. Like I remember, unfortunately, Noah's dog passed away about 2-3 months ago.
2 months ago, yeah.
And Noah, when going through this, because of the business we've created, he was able to do some tests that like 2 years ago, we don't know if he would have been able to afford those tests.
Yeah.
And that was able to buy him some time and figure out the steps that he needed to take. But without real estate, like without creating wealth for ourselves, like it's not a simple thing, but like that's something that the average person cannot do. The average person cannot get a $15,000 surprise bill. And I'm still today, I would not like to get a $15,000 surprise bill. But if I do, it's not gonna change my financial situation because what real estate created. So I love, that's really inspiring to hear that you guys, that happened. Unfortunately, it happened, and like, but once that happened, you were like, let's make a change. And again, we just did a show with Josh Blankenship, and we talked about in his show that he got the bug for real estate and boom, made it happen, immediately took action. You guys had a crazy life event. What did you do? You said, boom, we can't keep doing this. And you immediately took action, went back to a market that you knew a little bit about and started making decisions to start in real estate. I love that. And I think it's a common theme that you see throughout the journey of a real estate investor or just entrepreneurs in general, right?
Can you share like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I just wanted to hear maybe like 3 things that you did when you moved back to St. Louis to get started.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So the very first thing I did, and again, I knew nothing about real estate. Like it sounds so stupid. 2 years ago, didn't know anything. I hadn't read a book. I'd maybe listened to one or two podcasts on it before, but knew nothing. I was like, I got to get into this. And we moved in June of 2019. I was like, to get into this, I've got to learn what I'm doing. And so we literally on the drive from Denver to St. Louis moving, I had a friend out here that I saw him list properties every once in a while on his Facebook. And I say friend, I hadn't talked to him in 8 years. So I was friends with him on Facebook. And so I reached out to him and I was like, hey man, I want to learn. Can we grab breakfast? And he's like, yeah. And so I think the second or third day that I was back, I went and grabbed breakfast with him. Yeah. And we sat down and started talking about real estate. And he was like, yeah, I own at this time, I think he's now up to like 180 properties, but I think at this time he owned 100. And I was like blown away. Cause that was another thing. When we moved back, I knew that I wanted to get into it. I didn't know anything about the Burr Method. So my goal was, I actually had taken a job at a church back here in St. Louis, but my goal was, hey, every year we're going to save up 20% down to put down on a house, and we're going to buy a house a year for the next 10 or 15 years. And then when we're 65 years old, we'll have, 15 paid off houses. That was the goal. And so I sat down with him and he's like, yeah, I've bought 100 houses in the last 5 years. And I've done it using this method. At the time, didn't know anything about it, called the Burr Method. And I was blown away. And so once I talked with him, that was when it was like, dude, I've got to learn about all of this. And so I ordered Brandon Turner. It was David Green, the book on David Green. Started listening to every podcast that I could listen to. Started going to local meetups. Just trying to immerse myself in the investing culture here in St. Louis, and learn from people. So that was the big thing, is just networking. I networked like crazy.
Networking and then self-education, right? Listening to the podcast, reading the books. And then, so once you started doing that, walk us through what your first step was, like to actually take action, buy a property, look at a property. Let's just kind of dive into that first deal and how that came about.
So we moved back, and in July of 2019, so literally didn't know what we were doing again. Didn't know what we were doing. And I saw a wholesaler post a house. It was a beautiful house. It was down in an area around called Tower Grove Park, which is here in St. Louis. It was built in the 1890s. Saw them post this house. I didn't know how to run numbers on houses. I didn't know how to comp houses. I didn't know anything, but I was so fired up. And one thing that I've always been good at is taking action. And so I called them and bought it without going to the house, without walking the house, without doing a rehab budget on the house. Cause I didn't even know how to do that stuff. So I was just like, I want to do this. I'm in. And so I called them up and I bought the house. And didn't know anything at that time about hard money lenders. And so we had owned a house in Colorado that we made a little bit of money off of. And so when we bought this house, I used just a bank to buy it, because I didn't know buy it in cash, rehab it, pay. So we put 20% down on it. And then this deal was crazy, because we bought it and I'd used Zillow to find what I think that it would be worth when it was fixed up. And so I thought that it would be, I bought it for $150. And I thought that it'd be a $300,000 house fixed up. But I don't have any, I was a pastor. I've never picked up a hammer in my life. Had no construction experience. Same with my wife. And so I was looking at these other houses, and they were these older houses, but what people are doing down there is they're getting in there, they're gutting them, they're opening up the entire main level to where it's a completely open floor plan. They're getting rid of the plaster walls, and the house that I bought had all of that. It had like the three like living room, dining room, kitchen, plaster walls. And in my mind, I'm like, we could do that for $30,000-$40,000, and turn around and sell it at $300,000. And we had our first contractor come out, and we had bought it at $150,000. he walks it, and we're telling him what we want to do. And we wanted to add an extra bathroom upstairs and just all this crazy stuff. Cause I'd watch HGTV a lot, and I'm like, it's easy, you can do it. So he's like, yeah, you can do this, but it's going to cost you $150,000 or more.
Love it.
Yeah, and I'm like, the numbers don't make sense on that.
Wait, if this isn't working like HGTV?
Yeah,
exactly. Numbers don't make sense to buy a house for $150, have the carrying costs. I don't even have $150,000 to get you to pay for it.
Yeah.
And so what we did on that one, we were scared to death, because I'm like, we're underwater on this. We were underwater. Like, it was like, there's no way we're going to get out of this alive. But what we did is we actually moved into that house. We had a place already out here, but we were like, they were about an hour and 15 minutes apart, because we were living out in the country.
Yeah.
We moved into the flip that we were doing. We just brought a mattress. We had at this time we had our daughter, Riley. She was 1 year old. And the week that we bought this house, we had our second baby. So we moved into this house with a 2-week-old and a 1-year-old and a dog. And we literally brought a little like bassinet for Callie, who was the newborn. Yeah. And then we brought a queen size bed that me, Lexi, and Riley slept in, and our dog. That was it. And we ordered out food every night, and we rehabbed it ourselves. That's awesome. And so, it was a blast. It was so much fun. Those are memories I'll look back on forever. But we rehabbed it ourselves, and we didn't know how to take out walls or anything. So we did a very cosmetic rehab where we refinished the cabinets. We put in, granite countertops. We painted the walls. We just spruced it up. It took us about a month. And so, with materials and everything on that house, so we bought it at $150, carrying costs probably like $155. We spent probably like 30 grand in just materials, and we did have to 30 grand in materials, and we did have to hire out some skilled work for the roof, a little bit of tuck pointing and stuff. So we ended up being all in for like right around 190. And we sold it at 207. So because of what we did, it wasn't a 300 house. We sold it at 207. And then after realtor fees, we essentially broke even on the house. Essentially broke even on it. But it was a blast. We loved it. It was so much fun. And I think for everybody I talk to, they're like, how do you get into real estate? And my biggest thing is like, you just got to do it. Like that first deal, essentially I paid $0 for education, like I got to learn.
That's a good point.
I didn't know anything about construction. Got to learn about the ins and outs of that, the ins and outs of selling a house, purchasing a house. Got to learn all of that stuff. And so it was a lot of work. If you took in like the time that we spent on it and you paid us hourly, we would have lost, 20, 30 grand on it. Probably. But at the same time, we broke even on it, and it kind of lit a fire under us, and it also was a confidence builder in our lives, because it proved that we could do it. It proved that like, hey, we've got this. Like there was a point during that entire process where I'm like, we're going to lose 50, 60 grand on this house. I don't have 50 or 60 grand. But we came out even on that house, and like I said, it was a super fun process. It wasn't a home run deal by any means, but that's we did it. I think that's the biggest thing. We did it.
I love it, man. I think the key takeaway on that, dude, is that it was a confidence builder, right? Like people miss the value of building your confidence is huge. People study for years to learn how to do a flip, and they waste all this time learning how to analyze and do this, and they get scared and they don't do it. Well, if you were to really average out the potential loss of income over those years, that's an astronomical number. That's huge because they didn't take action. Your scenario is 1,000 times better. You took action, and sure, you didn't make money, but you broke even, you learned what not to do, and then you built your confidence up to now you have an empire that you're building that you wouldn't have built if you didn't make that first step, right? So that was an invaluable first step that you took, and I think it's like, you could lose money out there. Sure, you could lose money on a deal, But also, like, Noah always says, like, you can pay for what you're saying, Noah. Noah's better at it.
You're gonna pay for education no matter which route you take, right? So you're gonna pay through mistakes and failure.
Yeah.
You're gonna pay through, or you're gonna pay through formal education, whether it be a course or a coach or whatever it is. Either way, though, you can't escape paying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one way or the other, you're gonna pay.
I love that, and we're trial by fire people, and we were, you know. I've told, because I've had a lot of meetings with people that are like, I want to do what you're doing. How do I do it? And
do it.
They're the type of people that are like sitting on the sidelines. I'm like, let me tell you about my first deal. Like it was terrible. I did everything wrong. I didn't know how to run numbers on a house. I didn't use any sort of private lending. I bought it from a wholesaler who, you know, I think I ended up paying him like a $45,000 assignment fee. Yeah. I didn't even know that you can negotiate with wholesalers at that time. I just saw him listed and I just offered asking. I didn't know that so I didn't know any of that. And so it was a huge, like, I got to learn all these things of like, here's what I don't do on the next deal. Yeah. But then, also, you know, got to prove to ourselves that we could do it. And so, like I said, I tell everybody, like, you just got to do it. Like if your first couple deals you don't make any money on, like that, chalk that up to education. You know?
Exactly.
Cause you're going to learn a ton through that. And eventually you're going to be making deals. And through that, we, you know, gained valuable relationships with people that I honestly, that helped us along the way, that taught us how to do things better. And so, you just have to go through it to get to where you are. And it's a scary thing, buying $150,000 house and having 2 kids and not having any money.
Yeah. Y'all are crazy. I love it.
It was worth it. And we had to move in there. We didn't plan on moving in there or anything like that, but, it turned out, pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I think, what I love about that is that the first deal is the most important deal because it proves to you, like you said, that you can do it. But it's like the problem that so many people struggle with is they think the first deal has to make $100,000. Yeah. Your first deal doesn't have to be a home run. Your first deal, what matters more is that you did it. Yeah. It just needs to happen. And that will carry, I mean, like Jeff said, your first deal is the result of what you have now. Yeah. Like it doesn't matter if you win or lose. It just matters that you do it.
Yeah. You got the game started. Mm-hmm.
Well, cool. Let's dive in. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I mean, so now in our office, and I'm at my work office, but we have a home office and we have two quotes on the walls and they're pretty corny, but I love them. And the two quotes are, bet on yourself. Yeah. Because that's Lexi and I are all about betting on ourselves. Like we're going to figure it out. I mean, we bought this house on it. Like we don't know what we're doing, but we're going to bet on ourselves.
Yeah, but we're doing it.
And then the other thing is someone's going to do it. Why not us?
Yeah, I'd bet on you, man.
So that's like the Russell Wilson quote, man. Why not?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So like, those are 2 things that we're like that we look at every day, and it motivates us. And so like when we were getting into it, I think that's another thing with younger investors is they look at all of these people, you know. That have grown these massive portfolios. And I'm like, dude, anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. Yeah. You just have to do it.
Yeah. Real quick before we jump into your progression, that second quote, I absolutely love. Somebody's going to do it. Why not us? It is so simple and yet it's so true. Like, you look at these people like, bro, when we went to the Maui Masterclass, meeting Brandon Turner in real life and like developing a friendship with him was kind of surreal. But then I look at him and I'm like, dude, he's been doing the bigger pocket stuff for a long time, but he really just upticked his investing like 3-4 years ago. Before that, he was like doing a couple flips and then like really just building a small rental portfolio. And he's known as this guy like that's at a level that's unobtainable. It's not unobtainable. He just decided to be that somebody and did it. So why can I not be that guy? There is nothing different. And he'll tell you all day long. That's what I love about the real estate community is that when you get to that level, everybody is like, not everybody, but a lot of people are go-givers and they want to add value and bring people up. Yeah. And they will always tell you, I am no different than you. I am no different than the guy wanting to start out right now. I'm just a couple years ahead and took action. That's the only difference. Like,
it's exactly right.
That's a beautiful quote, man. I might throw that up in my office. It's just good. Somebody's going to do it. Because I actually had this, Ed Milet was on the Bigger Pockets show like a year back. And I called Noah and I was like, bro, listen to this episode. Because for me, one of the things that I always struggled with is I had some deals go sideways when I first started. And I let that kind of shame and that guilt and like kind of like put a cap on what I could do in real estate. And I was like, oh, I can be like kind of a successful flipper, but I'll never be that guy that people want to learn from or listen to. And like, it was just this limiting belief I gave myself because of some of the losses I had in my first couple of years. And Ed Milet like said on that show that, that as a child of God, like God wants to bless his children. And like, so stop putting this limiting belief on yourself that one, as a child of God, you have to live in this shame and this guilt from before because you're not, you're set free of that. But then like, it was like the most like biblical they've ever got on the Bigger Pocket show. And I was like, let's go, let's do this. And then he goes on to say, cause my other thing was like, as a Christian, like I naturally like want to limit myself because I don't want to be like this flashy rich guy and like look like I'm not giving back to the kingdom. But as I give back, like God wants to reward me for that. And so there's no cap on what I can do as a Christian entrepreneur. Like God wants to bless my business as I respond faithfully. And so I think that's cool. Like somebody's going to do it. Why not me? Stop having that cap. And like whatever it is, like that really hit me, man. It reminded me of that Ed Milet episode. I think that was so cool.
Love it.
But enough about me being corny.
No. There's no limiting beliefs in our business. And we have very lofty goals, but again, I'm like, somebody's going to hit these goals. Like, why can't it be us? Like somebody's going to own $100 million in real estate in the next, 3 years. Like, why is that not us? Like,
that was actually one of my favorite things about you guys at the master classes. Like we're all talking about some of our goals and you guys had some wild goals and like, you just set them like they're completely normal and you obtain them and you will because of the way that you believe and you state them.
But if you would have told me, I mean, so we've been in this for 2 years. And at this point have done about 130 deals.
Yeah, it's mind blowing.
If you would have said that 2 years ago, I would have been like, get out of here. Like you're a freaking idiot, you know? And so, and we've progressively like set goals, like when we bought that first flip, our goal, that was in July. And our goal for the next year, like we set these goals without knowing anything about real estate, was to have 20 rentals in a year. Without knowing anything about real estate. Sounds so stupid. I remember I'm a firm believer in telling people your goals because then you're kind of held to them. And I remember telling people, and the majority of people are like, okay, Cam, okay. But we did it, you know? And so, I think that any goal is attainable.
Absolutely.
You just have to, believe in yourself and, so.
Would you mind sharing your goals on the podcast?
So right now the biggest one, so I've got a year-end goal is to acquire a multifamily that is around $5 million. That's kind of the goal. That's the number that we're looking for. And then the 3-year goals is we want to have $100 million in real estate. So right now we're at around 7 million. So it would be a huge undertaking to get there. But we want to be at $100 million in real estate. And then we want to own a house in Hawaii that our business pays for. So there's a couple goals in there that are like, I guess not like our number one goal is that $100 million in 3 years. Because I know if we get there, that'll be able to really allow us the freedom to do whatever we want. So we have some goals like within our Revel City properties business of we want to, and we will probably talk about this more later, but we've built it so quick that it's like this monster that we didn't do a great job setting up like systems to be able to, when we started, we did it because we wanted not only financial freedom, but time freedom. And now we've got financial freedom, but we don't necessarily have that time freedom. So one of our goals is to set up our business to where we can literally be out of business for a year and come back and it's still running just as smoothly. I think we've all talked about the coma test. Like you go into coma for 6 months and come out, how's your business? Right now, if we went into coma in 6 months, when we came back, it would be in shambles. That's a big goal for our business is to be able to hire the right people to help run our business. So we're actively looking for kind of like a integrator operator type to kind of be more over that day-to-day stuff. But that's a big goal of our business. And then then there's some like personal goals with health and family goals and stuff like that. So I do the, let me see if it's in here. Is it in here? So you guys, I know this is corny. So I do the 10X planner every day. So you write down your goals on it twice a day. So you do it every morning and every night.
Okay.
And so like every morning, every night, I write my goals. And so that's something that like Ed Milet talks about, Grant Cardone talks about, is like a lot of people, they write their goals on January 1st and they don't revisit them until the end of the year. And I write my goals every single day.
I love it.
Twice.
Yeah.
So what is that? 700 times a year I'm writing them down.
That's freaking awesome, because then it puts it at the forefront of your mind. You're actually working towards it.
I love that, man.
That's good. Let's talk about how you made the jump from flipping a house and breaking even to now what? You said you did 130 properties 2 years in?
Yeah.
How'd you guys do that?
So we finished up that flip. Didn't make any money on it, but we were like super just pumped about real estate and wanted to get into it. And so the second we got done with that, we bought 2 houses. I think the next week.
Nice.
There were 2 BRRRR deals.
Okay.
And one of them we bought, and this is really the one where we were like, oh my goodness, it works. Like we can. So we bought a house for $67,000.
Okay.
And it was in a good part of town. It was a hoarder house. It was disgusting. It was terrible. But we bought it for $67,000, and we got into it and completely rehabbed it. I mean, it was beautiful. And it cost us $28,000 to do.
Okay.
So we were all into this property for $67,000 plus $95,000. And then we took it and we got it appraised, and it appraised out at $145,000. And so the bank that we were working with, they do 80% loan to value.
Oh, nice.
So we got, I think it was $114,000 refinance. And so on this one, we'd used a family member as a private investor on it. And so we took that $114,000, we paid back the $95,000. Then we still had $19,000 that we put into our bank account cash. That's awesome. Plus we got a tenant in there at $1,500 a month. And so it was cash flowing like $430 a month on it. And we got done with that deal. And Lexi and I, we looked at each other like, this can't be right. Like, this can't be normal. But it is.
That's killer.
And so that was the deal where it was like, oh my goodness, we can like really start scaling when I learned that it was true. That this whole Burr Method everybody talks about isn't just some fake thing, but it actually works. Yeah.
How'd you find that deal?
So that deal I bought from a wholesaler.
Okay.
That deal I bought from a wholesaler. I think they had bought it at 55, and that one was a little unique because I probably got it for less than I should have, but the wholesaler didn't have a walkthrough contingency or anything on it, and couldn't get back into the house, and they just wanted to sell it. And so
I guaranteed buyer.
Yeah, so I bought that off of pictures. So I feel like if they would have closed on it, cleaned it out, they probably would have gotten somebody in the mid to upper 70s on it. But they wanted just to sell it. So so they sold it to me without ever being inside of it. So I bought it sight unseen. Yeah.
What attracted you to the BRRRR model compared to like the traditional fix and flip? And I think I know the answer, but I want the listeners to hear this.
It was the scalability of it. Like I said, we had goals that we set that we didn't even know how we were going to attain them. Didn't know that the BRRRR method even really worked. But I got, talking about networking, I got into this just amazing group of people that all have grown huge rental portfolios through the BRRRR method. Learned a ton about that. And so it was the scalability of, hey, we can essentially buy as many houses as we want without using our own money because we didn't have any money. So the traditional way would have taken us forever. before I even learned about the Burr Method, the goal was house a year, 20% down. And then I learned about the Burr Method, and we restructure our goals of like, oh, we can buy as many houses as we want to because we're not coming out of pocket for them.
Yeah.
We were just talking about this yesterday, and we were looking at a deal, and we're like, okay, we can actually do this, but we're gonna have to put like $200,000 into it. And I was like, it's a good deal. And I was actually trying to convince both of us why we should do it, right? And I was like, dude, this is how everybody else invests. Like they have to put money into deals. And the more we talked about it, we're like, this doesn't make any sense. How does anyone feel good about actually having to pull money out of something else and leave it in something?
Yeah.
I'm like, you're just buying your cash flow.
Yeah, I literally told Noah, like, dude, why don't you just put $200,000 in an account and then take $500 out of it a month, because that's what you're doing when you go and park your own. I'm a no money down guy, dude. Like we have like $10 million in real estate right now, and I got like $50,000 out on some miscellaneous stuff, and that's it. Like I'm a no money down through and through.
That's how we are. We haven't come out of pocket for any of our deals.
Yeah.
We've probably made close to $200,000 on refinances. Which
listeners, that is tax-free money because it's not actually income, it's debt. So that's one of the brilliance of the BRRRR model that I think doesn't get hashed out enough, is that money that you recapture when you do a cash out refi it's not taxable, because that's not income that you're earning. That is debt that you're putting on a property, contingent on when you sell that property, and then you have to recapture it and pay the taxes on it. So if you're planning on selling it in 2 to 3 years, not the best model to take a bunch of cash and think you're not paying taxes. Mm-hmm. But if that's a long-term hold, 15, 30 years, bro, you just got tax-free money for 15 to 30 years until you resell that thing, and you can do some depreciation stuff over the course of those 30 years anyways to make it to where you never pay taxes on that. So that's the brilliance of the BRRRR.
It's like we had one deal. We bought a 6-pack at $380,000.
Yeah.
And we bought it from a property management company that we had reached out to, ask if any of their owners wanted to sell.
It's a great strategy.
Portfolios.
It's a great strategy.
Yeah, and so there was one guy that wanted to sell 6 homes because he wanted to turn that over into a senior living facility.
Okay.
So we bought it for $380,000. We got it appraised at $620,000, and we're able to pull out. I think it was like $497 on it or something like that.
Jeez.
Yeah, didn't touch them. So
you didn't even flip them or do anything.
That's awesome.
Didn't do anything to them because we bought them turnkey. They were already rented. They were, they had taken good care of them. They're already turnkey. The owner didn't want to get the tenants out, listed or anything like that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Off market. And so we put roofs on 3 of them.
Okay.
There's three roofs that we had to put on. And so, and we know like once those tenants move out, we're going to have to do a rental turn on them. So we put money aside for that. Yeah. But honestly, none of them need more than about 10 or 15 grand a piece. So, we set some money aside for that. And then the rest is just, like you said, tax-free money that we made. And they're all cash flowing still. So
that's cool, man.
Yeah, I love that, dude. What I was going to ask, we've got like 5 to 10 minutes left on the show. What I was going to ask is if you wanted to share, before we move into like the last segment of the show where we just ask some basic questions on books and podcasts and how do people get a hold of you. But before we do that, you have done something that's statistically very hard to do, which is scale a flip business.
Yeah.
And I can't put enough emphasis on how cool it is that you did it with your wife.
Yep.
If you want to spend maybe a small amount of time talking about what your role is and what Lexi's role is, and then maybe a couple pieces of advice on how someone can go from 1 home to 3 or 3 to 5 at a time.
Yeah. So we've one thing that we've done is we're very particular about like here's your role and here's my role. Yeah. And I don't mess with her role at all, and she doesn't really mess with my role at all. Because if we did, we would fight a lot, So I'm pretty much in charge of acquisitions. I find the properties, purchase the properties, figure out financing. So we're to the point now where we use some of our own money for the initial purchase. Obviously, we're going to recapture that on the refinance. And then we've got 3 or 4 private money lenders, and then we have hard money lenders as well. So, nice. So I'm in charge of the finding the deals, underwriting it, making sure it makes sense as either a flip or a rental.
Yep.
And then getting the financing. So kind of all that stuff.
Okay.
Once we purchase the property, then it is really 100% on Lexi. So Lexi is in charge of flipping it. She's in charge of running the crews on it. She's in charge of like setting up utilities on all the properties. And she's in charge of whether we keep it or we sell it as a flip. She's in charge of finding the tenants for that.
Okay.
And then I do also on the back end, once we have all of that done, then I'm in charge of kind of like the refinancing of the property. But so Lexi's pretty much our project manager and property manager. And so now we've hired on a full-time project manager and a full-time property manager to help her with that. Yeah. Just because I think right now we have 8 going on, 8 rehabs going on. And so, and then we have a lot of crews. So the project manager and the property manager, those are W-2 positions. Then we have crews. They're all 1099 positions that work for us. But yeah, so we don't really step on each other's toes. Yeah. I let Lexi have, full authority in what we're going to do to the house, color scheme, paint scheme, tenants. Like I even tell her, like, I don't want to know. Like, you do this. Yeah. I don't want to know. Like, obviously, if something big happens, we'll talk about it. But I'm like, I don't. Like that's your role. Here's my role. Yeah. And it's worked really well together. But she does an amazing job owning her area. I own my area. And so it works really, really well that way.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And to be able, cause I have a lot of friends that are doing this and they don't have that partner. So they're in charge of the acquisitions. Yeah. The finding the lending, but then they have to run the crews and have to find the tenants. And so I don't have to do that. So it's helped us like that alone has helped us scale our business so much faster to where she has the things that she's really good at. I have the things that I'm good at and we can run at 100 miles an hour because of that.
Yeah. I call that rocket fuel, right? Because the other cool thing is, what do they say? It takes an average of 10,000 hours to become an expert in something, right? Yeah. So you get to reach your 10,000 hours of acquisitions so much faster than a single person operator. And then Lexi too, she gets to reach her 10,000 hours and become an expert in her field so much faster because she doesn't have to do acquisitions. Yep. So you guys are going faster in your own lanes.
And it's probably, if I remember this correctly, it's probably similar to you guys a little bit because don't you manage a lot of so. I mean, it's the same thing where we get to have a 2-man team. Yeah. The only difference is because we're married, we get to be 100% owners of it, you know? Yeah. So we get to have that. And then she gets to hire on her people, with the last 2 hires, both of them, she came to me and said, hey, I feel like this is a position that if we hire somebody out, for our project manager and our property manager, it's going to help us continue to scale at a faster level. And so we went for it. And so, it's been a lot of fun. We work really well together. Hasn't been too many fights.
Yeah. So are you saying that Noah and I should get married so we own 100% of the business?
We pretty much already are, man. He's my work husband.
Exactly.
I was actually just thinking about this. This is an interesting thought. I
don't even want to hear where this is going.
No. It's not where going where you think it's going. So the funny thing about what you just said is we actually have talked about that before, and I've thought about that. I'm like, man, it is difficult because we have to double what we want to do to have the income that you and Lexi would have to have, right? Or as a single man operator would have to have. Yeah. Yeah. But this is more like a dice. I was going to say like a 2-sided coin. There's multiple sides to this equation, right? One, I always say this, Jeff's brain plus my brain does not equal 2 brains, just like your brain plus Lexi's brain does not just equal 2 people. There's a multiple on that, right? So like I truly believe that like what we're doing, I would really think that this would be pretty accurate, a 7x multiple. Yeah. So Jeff plus me is actually 7 times what I could do on my own. Yeah. And then on top of that, because I know that I have to split all my passive income with Jeff, I work way harder for it.
Yeah.
So we
buy way more. Yeah.
I'm going way more aggressive.
Yeah.
I have way more confidence. If something goes wrong, I know I'm not in it by myself, and I don't have to dig myself out alone. I know he's going to grab a shovel and start digging.
Yep.
And then, I just feel like there's a multiple on even like where we're at passive income wise. Like I was doing the math, and we're probably only a few more acquisitions away from both being at 6 figures passive income a year.
That's amazing.
Which, dude, like realistically, when I started real estate, I would have been very happy with 20 grand a year passive income.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm going to be 5x that, and I'm not even 30.
Yeah,
that's insane.
It's crazy.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I love what you said too about the rocket fuel of like because my main area right now is focused on acquisitions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I truly do believe that I am, one of, if not the best acquisitions person in St. Louis.
Yeah.
But that's all I focus
Mm-hmm.
on.
Yeah.
If I had to do acquisitions, but then also manage crews and find tenants for properties and stuff like that, I wouldn't be as good at acquisitions.
Yeah.
I would, but because I get to be out there, I walked 3 houses this morning and I have 1 tonight. So I'm walking 4 houses today that I'm going to make offers on. And because I get to do that every single day and I don't have to be at the house managing crews, it's allowed me to grow and my skill set there way quicker than it would have if I was having to try and do everything myself.
Yeah,
exactly,
man. That's killer.
Well, cool. Would you mind sharing maybe a book that you've read or one of your favorite books that really you feel like propelled you in your business, and then maybe a podcast as well?
Yeah. So this is my all-time favorite book. And it's not real estate related, but I think it's an amazing book and you can read it in an hour, but it's called Miracle Morning.
Okay.
Have you guys read that at all? Yeah. Miracle
I got
Morning.
it on the nightstand.
You got on, yeah. So
Jeff, this is your response to every book somebody recommends.
So at the Maui Masterclass, everybody recommended books. So I literally bought 30 books on my way home from the Maui Masterclass. Like that's not an overstatement. It's probably an under. And they all sit on my nightstand, and I'm like, all right, well, one at a time. One at a time. I'm getting there, dude.
Yeah, so Miracle Morning, that changed my life in the sense of like, just starting I just showed you like the goals that I write down, but starting my morning outright, getting mentally there, physically in a place to where I can work. They talk about visualizing in there. And so like, I literally sit there and I visualize where I'm going to be in 5 years. And so that's helped me just personally. And then, so I love that book. It's something that I try and do every single morning. And then, a leadership book that I love, and these aren't real estate, but Good to Great. Have you guys read that?
I have not read that.
Good to Great. You need to read it because it's an amazing, especially as you guys are building your team and hiring on more people. It's just an amazing leadership book where it just talks about what makes leaders great leaders. It kind of like there's a lot of good leaders out there. There's a very few great leaders out there. And so Good to Great is an amazing book that I would say has really helped me in my development. And then on the podcast side of things, I'm trying to think.
You really like that one show you were talking about, chasing time, chasing freedom.
Noah always tries to plug our show. Yeah, other podcasts.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm trying to think. I'm not because I'm in real estate so much. I've kind of morphed away from like I used to listen to Bigger Pockets like every time I was in the car driving.
Yeah. Brandon listens to the show, right?
What?
Brandon listens to the
Brandon,
show.
I heard he does. I heard he's going to be on it actually.
Yeah.
That's hopefully.
I heard he's going to be
Just
on
say,
it.
be careful what you say if you're telling you're telling the world right now that you
guys
stop
are
listening.
actually going to take over.
That's the goal.
They asked us, but we both said
we turned it down. I said maybe in like a year or
please.
two. But I actually told Brandon my favorite Bigger Pockets episodes are the solo shows that David Green's been doing. So sorry, bro.
But podcasts, I'm trying to think. This is embarrassing. I've been listening to Impulsive with Logan Paul lately.
I love this.
All right, thanks for jumping on, man. We really appreciate you. This may or may not air. If it doesn't, it's because Travis forgot to say the video.
Oh, that's so good. Hey, at least you owned up to it, though.
Hey, you know what? Check it out, guys. I love it. So
cool, brother. Thank you so much for joining on, man. You shared some really good stuff.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if people wanted to reach out to you and ask you questions or pick your brain. How can they reach you?
So email, Cameron, no E, Camron at revelcityproperties.com, REVEL cityproperties.com.
Sweet.
But the best way to reach us is through our Instagram, and that's just Cam Lexi properties.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll drop those on the show
Cam.Lexi.
notes too,
Yeah.
so people can reach out to you, man.
Yeah. So that's the best way. My wife or myself will respond. So if anybody wants to reach out, send us a DM.
You know, I have one question before we let you go, because this is one of the things that I'm always just curious on, like the husband and wife Instagram. Because like now since I met you guys in Maui, like I talked to somebody a decent amount on the Instagram. I'm like, am I talking to Cam or am I talking to Lexi? I have no clue.
It's weird. I agree with you.
They're like, it's our VA. It's Sanja.
It's some lady in the Philippines.
If we would have thought through, we just wanted to, honestly, we created that just to like share pictures of a couple of our flips as we were growing, and we didn't really think through that. Hey, this is going to be not a business for us, but we're going to grow as fast as we did and have a lot of people reach out to us, and so we both have access to it. We both have our obviously personal Instagrams, but that's kind of like our business one.
Yeah.
And so it's probably 50-50. I think I responded to you the other day.
All right, cool.
But
I want to make sure
it's 50-50. But what I hate about it though, is I think my email address, sorry, I don't hate this. I love this because I love seeing my wife succeed and do well. But my email address is connected to that Instagram.
Okay.
And I've had multiple people reach out to me through the email and say, hey, I'm trying to get a hold of Lexi. And I'm like, cool.
You're like, awesome. I am her assistant, Cam. Let me send you.
No, that's what you posted the other day.
Exactly.
It was like, wasn't it for Heather Blankenship's podcast and Lexi was on?
No. Heather reached out to it. That was for some news, like some real estate magazine reached out.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, we want to interview Lexi. Can you get a hold of her for us? And I'm like, awesome.
You're like, great.
Yes, would you like to schedule her for Wednesday or Thursday?
I do stuff too. I'm her husband.
Yeah. So, but no, it's a blast. Yeah.
Well, cool, man. So you guys can reach out to Cam to get a hold of Lexi. Cam's filter.
Please do.
Hey, we appreciate you so much for coming on, man. We had a fun time chatting with you, bro.
Thank you.
Hey, we'll see you in January.
On, guys. Yeah, January. It's gonna be a blast.
Okay. See you, brother.
Teach you guys how to snowboard. See you guys.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Chasing Freedom podcast with Noah and Jeff.
Please subscribe to our YouTube channel in the show notes below. And if you ever want to get a hold of us, feel free to do it via our Instagrams. You can also follow us for our funny content on TikTok.